differences than at all bringing harmony. It never tends to go well. And really all of this, taking out Pastor Doug Wilson, etc., people like that, it's just to make Trump their puppet king, which I know that. That's the way they're trying to move, and Trump is as well, move the Supreme Court near, that it's like a Supreme Court ran monarchy where Trump is the God King and does all the white people's bidding, which of course would throw out all people of color, when America is not a white country. America is not a white country. America was not founded by white people. So if you want a white country, I don't care about that. Go back to Europe, throw out everybody who isn't white, and you would then have to get into the argument of who is white and what is whiteness. But that's for you to solve. Because everyone who looks white isn't. Need we get into that? Talking about Italian gangsters, there's a movie called The Godfather. There was an interesting and intriguing scene where a white man tried to intimidate or son Mr. Corleone and tell him, you're not like us. In the black community, we we call that a nigga wake-up call. That you're not like us. So, and we could bring in the Irish into that. Okay, that happened for years. So, that's your argument. Go to your country, Europe, throw out everyone who isn't white by your standards, whatever that means, and shut down all the borders. And refuse anybody in who isn't white. I don't care about that. Do what you want with your country. But this is not a white country. It never was. And it's so interesting, like conservative people say, if you don't like America, leave. Why aren't you leaving? You're the ones who seem to not like America, unless you're talking about the racist America where there was redlining and certain people couldn't have certain jobs and women were in the kitchen all day and women couldn't vote or women couldn't own a credit card and all that other stuff. Like, go to your country and you do that and you leave, since you don't like it. You're the ones complaining the most about how America is trash. You leave if you don't like it. But let's get into the video.
Nation thrives when the people are Christian, and research supports this. Intrinsic religiosity in a Christian population has been shown to lead to more pro-social behavior, self-control, charity work, and more stable political systems. So why shouldn't we promote Christian nationalism? Let's define our nation around Christianity, pass laws based on Christian ethics, and build a nation on Christian values. After all, Christian nationalism is about protecting the nation with Christian values, so Christians can thrive and preach the gospel. Surely every Christian should want this. The moral corruption we see in our current secular society has been detrimental in multiple ways. The more we become a post-Christian society, the more moral deterioration we experience. Why not pave a path forward with Christian nationalism? A return to Christian principles and Christian ethics. What could possibly go wrong?
Sorry I paused it. This to me, again, I can read and somewhat scholarly, of World War I. That the current, or the past political system, or system, whatever it was that wasn't working. So the United States and other countries, allied countries, went in and fought the system that wasn't working, or was oppressive, or was whatever it was. And I get the argument towards the radical left of, well, tear everything down, and then, which Christian nationalism would be too, but tear everything down and then we'll replace it. That's the Bolsheviks, and no, I didn't curse, the Bolsheviks who thought the same thing. Just tear everything down and we'll take the power and everything will go well. World War One. You're creating a vacuum. Well, with the Bolsheviks, they couldn't run anything. They couldn't run a country. World War One, it created a vacuum with two opposing ideas: communism and fascism. And then World War II happened. So I get the argument against the radical left who wants to tear everything down, because you have to think, what are you going to replace it with, or what is going to jump in and replace it, whether asked or not, without permission or with it. Do people not realize that if America wars against itself, and I've thought this years ago, that we are doing to ourselves more than Saddam Hussein could ever do, and it's our own people. We're Rome. Another history lesson, where Rome traded itself to its enemies, and its enemies pounced, or just traded it off, and they sold themselves down, and their people down the river. And the enemy forces came in and took their portion. Do you not realize that's what would happen? That our so-called allies and our so-called enemies would pounce. And you do realize, like, that would be a win for England. They just take back the states that were theirs. That's what I would do. Auctioning off America, they get their win back. They get their lick back. Just that.
Christianity has declined in the West, and what has replaced it is secularism. More and more we are becoming a secular world where Christianity has little influence on the government or culture. And the response to this by some has been to promote Christian nationalism. Christianity cannot thrive and grow because we no longer have a culture that fosters Christian values. If Christians can gain political power and influential positions over the culture, we can shift the nation back towards Christian.
Sorry, this is going to be one of those videos. And again, I'm reacting, so I'm going to pause and talk. If you don't like it, the door. What is a Christian? Who is a Christian? So, Vladimir Putin could call himself a Christian. Is he now a Christian nationalist? If Vladimir Putin wasn't who he is, let's just say he's a random person, moves to the United States, calls himself a Christian, and whatever happens with Christian nationalism, and they chose him as the head of whatever, ahead of one of the judges that's going to sit on the panel that helps Trump. Do you see the problem there? Because many Christians say, well, it's not anybody's place to question anybody's Christianity. Okay, then who is a Christian? I don't want Vladimir Putin sitting on any committee, chair, board, whatever, but he's white, and he calls himself a Christian, and he's male. So there's that.
Values. The goal must be to transform the nation away from secularism and enforce Christian principles. This will reverse the decline of Christianity and encourage more to become Christian. But this will never work. The goal of Christian nationalists is well intended, but misguided. I agree a nation is better when the people are Christian, but we cannot make a nation more Christian through politics or a culture war. You can only make a nation Christian through evangelism. Christianity is not a political system or a culture. When you try to weaponize Christianity to be something it was never intended to be, you will always lose. It's like fighting fire with fire. When Christianity is meant to be water, the forest will burn around us, and all will suffer because of it. When we try to make Christianity a culture, whether a politically left or right-leaning culture, we end up reducing the strengths of the gospel to transform lives. The focus becomes on changing one's politics, not their heart. Jesus gave the Great Commission, not the Great Culture War. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All nations are called to declare Christ King, not by force, but willingly surrendering to Him. Notice Jesus said all authority on heaven and earth had been given to Him. He is now King of the whole world, and if He wanted, He could call down legions of angels to enforce His laws. But He doesn't. If Christian nationalism was the way forward for us, then why doesn't Jesus take this path? Why didn't He teach His followers to get a hold of positions in government and enforce His laws to foster an environment built on values He wants? Wouldn't this make the world better? Perhaps for a little while, but in the long run it would be detrimental. He would not create a people that freely love and give their lives to Christ, but an enslaved people. They would worship Him because they have to, not because they want to. Prohibition was built on good intentions. Let's ban alcohol, so men stop wasting money on drinking and stop going home drunk and hitting their wives. But prohibition didn't make anyone more moral. It only created new forms of crime, underground bars, and criminal organizations that wreaked havoc. Attempting to make people moral through governmental force did not work, and we only need to study history to see that this is true. Christian nationalism teaches it would be better if Christians seized positions in government and the culture, and then forced our values on the rest of the world. But nowhere do we see Christ preaching this as the way. In fact, this very idea is what Satan tempted Christ with. Do not create a mission to save the world one heart at a time, but allow the devil to give you the tools and power to forcibly make the world in the image you want it to be.
He's going to get to something very good, but I wanted to say this because this was another video that I liked on this topic, where he was talking about how Christian nationalism is not drawing people to, drawing our attention to God or the cross of Christ. It's drawing us to a culture or a political agenda, whatever that might be. Just like he said, purity culture did not, the focus was not Jesus or God. The focus was having a great sex life, a marriage, and children. None of which you're promised to. I can't remember the other one that he named,